many tanks do a bunch of different countries around the world have? Now, if we look at this list, I think this is after the Ukraine war started, but I don't know from what time period, because Russia has since lost thousands upon thousands of tanks, to the point where we don't really know how many tanks they have. They still have quite a bit. However, they've lost thousands, like I said. And so it's actually believed that China has the most amount of tanks, and then Russia. Now, both the Chinese and the Russians, the North Koreans, which come in fourth, as well as many of the other countries on this list, the tanks are not up to date. These are very old tanks from the 50s, from the 60s. Some of them are actually World War II era tanks, versus the United States, which has modern battle tanks. Now, if we look at NATO countries and how many tanks they have, the United States, once again, 4,600 tanks or so. Whereas once we actually start looking at some of these other ones, is pretty crazy. Like the UK, only about 227 tanks, which is pretty crazy when you consider that the British were the ones who created the first tank built off of an American tractor. And yet they now only have 227 of them. Or how about the Germans, specifically known for their tank capabilities in World War II, less than 300 tanks in total, compared to the Russians, which even if their tanks are much worse quality, their capabilities have eroded over time. Many of their best tanks are now gone, and they're getting worse and worse ones out of storage. They still have thousands more tanks than the rest of NATO probably put together, excluding the United States.